and welcome to our first Doc Edge clinic for 2022. I'd like to start with welcoming Sue May to open with a karakia.
Kia ino I tātou. Tui e tātou ki te rangi e tui honei. Tui e tātou ki te papa e tākoto mai nei. Tui e tātou ki te moana e hora mai nā itua. Tui e tātou ki te wao nui a tāna e whakapiripiri nei a tātou. Tui e rā tātou ko te ira tangata ki te whai ao, ki te ao mārama I roto I ngā mahi kiriata. Tāwhi e whakamaua tātou ki a tīna, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e.
Kia ora, Sue. Welcome to Doc Edge Clinics. Doc Edge's mission is to support and promote storytelling that changes the world. The work you do is critical to telling stories that can create impact and help us realise a better world. Documentary and factual storytelling is a noble career, but it is also challenging. We do it because we believe in it, and not because documentary storytelling is a quick get-rich scheme. To be able to get our films made and seen by audiences, we need to constantly sharpen our storytelling and business skills. Doc Edge is committed to providing training and connections to make this happen. Doc Edge Clinics is a professional development program for filmmakers, creators of documentary and factual content. This year's workshops will cover the art of interviewing, publicising your film, how to monetize your project, copyright rights, making your short film matter, and a very special session on how to survive and thrive in the screen sector. Thank you for joining us for the clinics. We encourage you to join Doc Edge Academy as well if you haven't already. Membership will enable you to connect with our resources, training and networking opportunities. We're excited to have you join and be part of this journey to bring stories that matter to the world. We'd also like to thank New Zealand On Air, New Zealand Film Commission and our other partners and supporters including Screen Rights and Getty Images. My name is Rachael Penman. I am the General Manager and Festival Producer at Doc Edge, and Sue May will be joining me today and we will introduce her a little bit later and have a great conversation about all the wonderful things that she has done. We're going to start with going to share the screen. Val's going to share the screen with us. And we're going to start going through and having a talk about the fact that we now at Doc Edge Festival have our submissions open. So you're able to submit your films for the festival for 2023. So this is the time when we actually start talking about the things that we need from you to make a great film submission and to be able to promote this film for you from a festival perspective. So we, just like every festival around the world, are looking for those images and synopses that are actually going to really sell and pop and make your film work. Thank you, Belle. Okay, so what we're talking about here. So what do we need from your film to be able to promote your film and make it stand out from the other hundreds of films that we've got there? We need high quality stills and a poster. We need synopses, logline, taglines, promotional clips and trailers, social media presence, an electronic press kit or an EPK. Now I know this can all sound so overwhelming. It's like, wow, all this stuff. The thing is to think about this right from the beginning before your film's finished, and that way it gives you that opportunity to really capture the essence of your film. So a good synopsis is written in a purposeful way to frame your subject of your film as well as creating intrigue. Now this is something that you may wish to, this is where you may wish to bring a publicist in to really capture the art and the words of what your film are. When you're writing your description, try to envision yourself as the audience and what would make you click play. This is the way to capture that audience. We usually have a long and a short description of your film. We have brochures where we like to use just a short synopsis around 80 words. Then often on the website, we can expand to up to 200 words. If you get some powerful quotes from your film, it's great to have those written down for us to be able to use those to promote the film, put on our socials, put on quotes across your posters as well. So taglines and loglines, what are these? Pretty much we say tagline, logline, same sort of thing. These are best things to help describe what your film is to the film distributors, to the festivals, but also to the customers. A real quick, catchy tagline. I've got some examples here of ones that we had from this year's festival. Penelope, My Love, fantastic film. The ferocity of a mother's love trades the battle for the path of peace. Really just sums up the film and makes you think, what is this? What is the battle for the path of peace? Tantura, I love this logline. For every story, there are two sides, but evidence will reveal the truth. Eternal Spring, how hard would you fight for your freedom? Really simple, catchy question, makes people wonder what the film is about. Sonic Fantasy, meet the man who broke the rules and records. Finite, the climate of change. To save our planet, they will risk their lives. And you can see here, these are the hero images for the films as well. So the tagline's really linking in with those images. So social media, so many things out there these days. Crikey, I can't keep up with it. But you know, this is something that's so important to us. We are promoting the festival. Last year we had 113 films in our festival, and we really need you as the filmmakers to have a really good social media presence to be able to promote your film within our festival. So the best way to start is just to having that Facebook or that Instagram or that Twitter feed, just having your images. These are something that hopefully you've actually started even before you've started filming, because they're really good ways to increase crowdfunding opportunities. So when you're actually looking for the funding for your film, you may have already started those social media platforms. Having great tags, things that we can use to really promote and support your film on those various platforms. We're even moving into LinkedIn. TikTok is something that we're playing around with and things as well. So, you know, any of those types of things. And when you've got that social media presence, it really makes it more likely that Google will return results for your film when people actually search for it as well. We will go into more detail about these things later. I'd like to just now share with you some hero image examples. So when it comes into the festival, we like to be able to make sure that we've got some hero images that really work and pop to be able to sell your film. Now, often my marketing team and we receive images and they are screen grabs, or they're low images, or they're busy, and it really makes it very difficult for us to try and find a way to promote your film. So I'm just going to start with some examples, some really great examples. So I worked with Jared, our graphic designer, to talk to him about what images he found this year that were really easy and great to work with. We can see here, the first image here, it's really got a beautiful, clear focus. It captures the mood and themes of the film in a simple and readable composition. The one in the middle, Young Plate, I love this image so much. This is a film about kids and their teacher who teaches them through philosophy. We've got, bang, here are you're introducing your central characters. Here's the teacher and the kids. It's got the theme, it's really interesting, it really captures your eye. Crows are white over on the side here. This is creating intrigue. Your image should encourage the viewer to think, draw them into watching the film for answers. Some really beautiful images that were really crisp and clean and easy to use. This is a film, Island and Me, and this is an example of a film that was used with a stills photographer on set. So by having the stills photographer on set while you're shooting, you can capture candid moments. You can capture the real essence and passion of your film. You can also, you know, it's just the beauty, rather than going back afterwards and going, oh my gosh, I haven't got any photos. Now I'm going to get a screen grab. The quality is so much better. This film, Island and Me, had some beautiful shots and images that we were able to use, which was fantastic. Other examples, if you haven't been able to capture the right films on set, is you may want to get some professional photos at a different time. So this one is an example of photo image being taken in a studio after. The advantage is that you have some more control over the visual storytelling. You're able to set up your subjects and you know, look at creating some gripping images. This particular image we actually used as one of our hero images for our festival generally, as it really created some real intrigue and interest for people. So that way the photo was actually generated out there as a film festival image, but also helped promote the film as well. Very quickly, just touching on hero images versus poster. Okay, so the hero image is something that we can use to promote your film in our socials, in our brochures, on our website, but it's not necessarily the poster. Here, for example, is a world premiere that we had this year, The Other Fellow. The image was a studio image that was a setup with the guns, the James Bond, that we used to promote the film prior to them actually having the poster. As it was a world premiere, the poster was not available to us until about 24 hours, I think, before our world premiere. And this is on the other side, The Other Fellow. So posters can have a lot more intrigue and depth to it as well. Talking about your images, we really like it to be versatile. This is one of the images that Jared really liked, because as you see, when we've been able to go in and crop the photo, it's still clear, it's high definition, we can still see what it is about, because there are so many different formats that we're going to use your photo in. It can be in landscape, it can be in portrait, it can be in small, it can be for Facebook, Instagram, as we see, so many different places. It could blow up to be a big billboard. You never know where your photos will end up. Just a couple copies of sort of difficult images that we found with working with. So for example, this film here had an image that had text all across it. Now that was something that was quite important to the film. However, it was very difficult for us to use in branding purposes. We struggled to be able to put text across it. So therefore, we weren't able to use the images from this film as much as we wanted to. On the right side, you can see an example of a screen grab. You can see here the quality is really low. This is as good as we could make it, even to show you. It's very dark. You know, to use this in promotion is really not going to do anything, and it's so crucial that we have really high quality images to be able to have a high resolution to be able to promote your films. Now, this is a little example of asking for images for a film about Betty White, which is absolutely fantastic. But we asked for many, many images, and our producer was wonderfully sending us all these films of him and Betty White. You know, a little bit difficult to promote the film with them. Eventually, we did get a great shot of Betty White to use for our images, but it took the team many emails and questions and answers to go back to actually finally get that image, and taking that time takes us away from promoting your film as well. Love Betty White. A couple of other examples of difficult images, even though they're beautiful. The one on the left here is Whetū Marama, a beautiful image of a boat in the water, but it's really, really busy. So it makes it very difficult to draw attention to it. We will show you later a poster for this, and you can see the difference. The one on the other side here is Aha. So this is from Aha, the movie. So a great image from them in the 80s, but made it very difficult for us when it came to cropping. We found that we would lose one of the three band members. They were just a bit too spread out, so it became very difficult for us to try and crop this into a profile image. So a way around this often is to give us a few different options of images as well. Another example of a screen grab. This is not a bad image, this one here, but again, it took us a lot of work for Jared to be able to actually get this image to the high quality. On the right as well was an image that we were supplied for a film. It was the only image we were provided, and it was very difficult for us to try and get the subject and the synopses to be able to tell the story, really. How Saba kept singing, this is a beautiful shot of Saba, but it really didn't tell us too much about the story. So I think this is about where your images are going to end up. So for us, as a film festival, we want those images to really pop and shine across social media, across our website, billboards that we have around the city, posters, social, flyers, our brochures, all sorts of different things that your images are going to end up on. So this is my little final PowerPoint presentation. This is our winning film, our New Zealand film that won the best feature, Off the Rails. And I just wanted to show an example of a really fantastic image that was taken during the filming by a photographer. An image that really captured the essence of the film that we used as one of our films, as one of our photos to actually promote the festival as well. Documentaries ask if the leap was worth it. So this is, for us, was a tagline that helped with the festival, but also it promoted the film as well. And you can see with our branding how we've used it in different ways. We've even flipped the image at times to be able to it to work on different things. It worked in the front of our civic theatre. It was blown up in extreme size and it didn't pixelate, which was great. It was even became the front of my business card. I love the image so much. Thank you so much. I'm now going to hand over to Sue, who is going to have a more in-depth conversation with you around publicity, which is the key to helping your audiences discover your film.
Kia ora tātou. E hui hui mai nei mō tēnei kaupapa e pāna ki te mahi kriata. I'm happy to be here with you to talk about publicity for your films and the content you create. I te tuatahi, ko wai tēnei e tū ana. Ko taranaki te maunga, I roto I tōku nākau. No e ngā rangi mai airana o ku tupuna I ngā wā o mua. Ko Sue May, tōku ingoa, ko huhana rānei. He tangata tiriti ahau. That was a Pākehā version of an introduction for myself in Te Reo Māori. What I said was that Taranaki is the mountain in my heart, without claiming the mountain, and that my ancestors came from England and Ireland a long time ago, and they lived in Taranaki. I see myself, define myself as Pākehā, as tangata tiriti, a person here under tiriti o Waitangi. I have just retired after working for 30 years as a publicist for film and television, documentary and drama. Before that, I created and worked as managing editor of On Film magazine, New Zealand's industry magazine at that time. And before that, I was a film production manager. The most recent documentaries I worked on as publicist were Loimata, The Sweetest Tears, Tupaya's Endeavour, and Maui's Hook. And a bit before that, My Year with Helen and Poie, The Story of Our Song. I've just completed working as kai whakahaere organiser for the Aotearoa Screen Publicist Collective. I would like you to have a look at the website, which is showing on the screen now, because it contains all sorts of valuable resources for producers and content creators as well as publicists. The thing most likely to benefit some of you in the short term is the one-to-one cup of coffee sessions. People with a funded project can apply and receive free advice from a publicist or a publicity practitioner. And you just apply on the website. As well as film festivals, which Rachael has obviously given you a really good rundown of what's needed, everything that she says applies to distributors, sales agents, broadcasters, streamers, any other platform that your film might want to go on. But it pays to check your contracts with those for what their deliverable requirements are, because they'll all be slightly different, which is another little trick that you need to be aware of. Also, all of those outlets and platforms are increasingly stretched in their resources as well. So they are less able to publicise individual films and programs. So it's important that you have your own thing running alongside whatever they can do for you, but treat what they can do for you as supplementary to what you can do. And what Rachel says about having your own social media really lively and vibrant is really important, because that's the thing that you can most easily do. I like to say that, well, I said that and it's now on the website, publicists are storytellers who tell the story of your story. We are the essential link between your story and your audience. It's the publicist's job to be able to define who the audiences are for your story and to identify the channels by which to reach them in a manner that they will relate to and which will inspire them to discover and watch your story. And it's also about how to present your story in the most effective way to enable your audiences to want to watch it, because, you know, that's the key, isn't it? The buzzword being used mainly by funding bodies is discoverability. You could say that a publicist is the agent of discoverability. I'm a little bit conditional here because I would modify that to say a publicist can only work within the confines of what the actual product is and how appealing it is in the first place. So therefore, a content maker does need to think about discoverability and audiences from the very early stages of production, as Rachel has said. This is why the funding bodies request an audience engagement strategy as part of your funding application. Well, most of them do. They want to get you thinking about your audiences and how to make your story discoverable. There are two types of publicist, a unit publicist and a release publicist. Sometimes the same person does both jobs, but usually the unit publicist hands over the materials, strategies, and other information to the distributor or the broadcaster or the platform, streamer or whatever platform, who will, in some cases, and I'm talking very generally here, hire a release publicist who uses the information supplied from the unit publicist. So you could, and unit there refers to the actual shoot, time during the shoot. So you could say that the final campaign for the release or the air date or the film festival is hugely dependent on the materials gathered by the unit publicist at the time that the story was created. And that's pretty much the point of this session, isn't it? Many of you probably don't hire a unit publicist, opting to do it yourself. I think Rachel's already told you why this doesn't always work. And I would add that the DIY of all trades approach to being a producer is no longer tenable if you want to make more than one film at a time, produce more than one story at a time. Also, you need to focus on the big picture, not to be on set trying to shoot stills. I've known producers who say, I'll do the stills, and then forget about it under other producer pressures. But why jeopardize the final outcome for relatively small savings? You would possibly answer that you don't have the budget to hire a unit publicist or a stills photographer or an EPK maker. A small step that ASPIC, Aotearoa Screen Publicist Collective, has taken in our initial lobbying work, we've secured an undertaking from NZ On Air that producers are welcome and encouraged to add a budget line for publicity, stills and video, and we encourage you to take advantage of this. Also, here's a couple of challenging questions. If you believe you can't afford publicity assets to be professionally made, could that be because you didn't think it was important enough to put it in your budget in the first place? And why make a film if you haven't got enough money to make it? The most important item in your kete of publicity assets is the trailer. What do you look at first when you hear about a film that you might want to watch? That's the trailer. It's A video piece that's made with your target audiences in mind. You might even consider making more than one if your audiences are distinct, and if you're putting different trailers, you can put different trailers on different platforms. Think about also getting an outside eye to make your trailer. Your editor or yourself may be too close and too attached to a narrative structure, which is not necessarily the way to stimulate interest. Now we have an example that I chose, which is Milked, which is a good trailer. It's a good, oh, sorry, we've got to play it first.
Dairy was a normal part of life growing up in New Zealand. I started the day with milk on my Weet-Bix and never thought twice about it. So it's been a journey coming to understand that milk isn't the wholesome product we're led to believe it is.
It's not beneficial, not required, associated with lots of diseases.
New Zealand's like your beautiful friend that's just got cancer.
I didn't know any of this.
People are dying, and it's all for the sake of making money.
This industry is not working for anyone.
We've gone down industrial agriculture big time, and we've got industrial-sized emissions.
I'm not angry at the farmers, but the system that they're caught up in is totally flawed.
And looking back, it's like, wow, we were duped.
You guys are going up against the biggest industry in the entire country.
I never considered that my life could be threatened by exposing this industry.
Oh, that's when it really, truly hits you what's going on.
Industrial dairying is this country's biggest polluter.
They are the most inefficient food production system on the planet.
There must be an alternative. We need a whole new way of thinking.
Do you think we're putting our future food security at risk?
I don't want to answer that.
It's incredibly powerful and it's incredibly devious.
In New Zealand, 5 million cows are a lot more important than 5 million people.
Water is going to be the next gold. And if we don't look after the water, then all of us will perish.
The dairy industry are just shuffling the chairs on the Titanic. And we need a new boat. If you consider we're on this little ball, this little beautiful planet of ours, we have a choice as to what sort of impact we're going to make.
That had lots of good quotes. It had the festival insignia, and it was a great outline of the story, which would be enough to inspire outrage. But it might be just me, but I felt as if I'd seen the whole film in the trailer. It didn't inspire me to want to go and see the film. It was kind of a summary of key points or a mini version of the film. I felt like it gave away too much. It's what I call a narrative trailer. Here's a more impressionistic one, which hints at the story but doesn't tell it. This is Poe, the story of our song.
The top of the New Zealand Pops is causing quite a sensation.
It's just like always been the benchmark.
It's probably the best $100 I've ever invested.
When I first recorded Poe, they were horrified.
The freezing works, I have to say, was, you know, that was the lifeblood of partiers.
One big family, one big family.
These people are praying for the survival of their town.
Give us a little taste.
Oh, yeah! And away I went.
Hey guys, we're going to record it. We don't need any money, we'll find it.
The whole studio fills up.
Some of us had never ever seen a microphone before.
Delvanus is saying, when you come back, I want Space Invader noises.
And I'm going, oh, whatever.
I thought it was a toy, actually.
We had heard there was a guy who could do the Michael Jackson thing. Find that guy.
A lot of people said he was mad. They want us to do what?
Righto, you two, sing your parts, and he wasn't really recording us.
There's the few moments in your life where you pull over and listen.
Changed everything, really. It gave us all a lot more confidence.
I played the backing tapes to her. And you know what she says to me? you are going to have many enemies.
Him and I just never got on.
I said, have you played the song to your kids? They love it.
He took Poye to the world.
For the first ever time on British television, oh yay!
They want you to appear on the Royal Command performance in Scotland. I said, we haven't got any money to do that. And so I went and mortgaged my house.
That was made by a professional trailer making company, I think that from Australia. Here's another effective trailer. The content and the message is strong. Let's have a look at Mothers of the Revolution.
There was this 4-minute warning the government would give if there was a nuclear threat.
4 minutes to find her children, to say goodbye.
We knew there was this place called Greenham Common with foreign missiles on our soil.
We had to do something. We knew we were crazy, but we had to do it. All these women with one purpose had come together. This is the story of the ordinary women who helped end the Cold War.
The arms race was between two powers. You can't just focus on one without looking at the other. It's a dance.
I said, I think we should go to Russia.
There was this group in the Soviet Union. They were the Russian counterparts of the Greenham women.
The government and KGB consider us dissidents.
And there's a car behind us with all these guys just looking at us. I've never had a tail before.
That was the first time when I was really scared. There are consequences. I thought about my children.
For a moment, you thought that you'd failed.
We have to bring it back to the nuclear weapons.
Whatever campaign we had, we'd started it and it had to continue.
You can't just stay at home. You have to go so as to lend power.
We were much, much closer to nuclear war than with the Cuban Missile Crisis. The risks of doing nothing were greater than the risks of doing something.
If you want to change something in the world, then you just go ahead.
I'm going to divert a little bit now into websites. The Milked website is a very good example, especially in these days where creating a website is easy and cheap, and every film, program, piece of content should really have one, especially if it's a topic designed to create or build on activism on an issue. So Milked does that really effectively. The other one that does that is The Girl on a Bridge. We're just showing you these, and you can look at the links later if you want to follow them up. Having an overall website that brings together all of your films in one place is also a good thing for a filmmaker to have, especially if you're planning on having a long-term career, which I hope that all of you are. Galen Preston, I think it's galenpreston.com actually, I've written it, oh no, it's galenpreston.co.nz, that's right, is an example of a career-long website. It's an archive, a news site, a supply of resources for media, students and fans. It's also a sales platform. It's a good example of why it's a good idea, if you can, to hold on to your IP. Okay, title, let's talk about that. It's a key point of attraction for an audience. It needs to be fresh, original, tell something about the story, and be memorable. How many times have you been going to tell someone about a film? I know it happens to me, and you can't get your head around what the title was. Not catchy enough, doesn't stay in your mind. After all, it's worth putting a lot of time and effort into your title. You're going to have to live with it for years/forever. Consult widely, run polls, ask for audience advice. You could also look at the subjects, the people who are in your film, ask them what they think, and then you somehow decide which is the best one. Stills. Rachael has given really good rundown on stills. instant branding, key image, needing to stand out. Not only does the content need to be inspiring, the quality needs to be absolutely top. It's best to, Rachel said this as well, have an experienced stills photographer on set for at least the most visually interesting scenes. And I say an experienced stills photographer because it is a specialised skill. The photographer needs to know set protocol, where to get the best angles, how to establish a rapport with the stars, all sorts of stuff, which Kirsty Griffin talks about in this fabulous interview. She goes into quite a lot of detail on The Power of the Dog and how she shot those iconic images for that. Sometimes with a documentary, it might be hard to determine what a suitable still will be. Interviews are quite difficult to cover in stills, but if it's a famous person being interviewed, then obviously you've got to get a good still. That'll be because that person will be obviously useful in the publicity. So at that point, try for a great headshot, as well as a wider shot to show the interview setup. But I've found sometimes you end up not using those. If you have drama sequences, shoot some stills there, but here's a trap I fell into on Poye, the story of our song. They shot lots of drama sequences. They had Marka Pohatu starring as Dalvanius, and we did some lovely things. We got really good stills. And then during the edit, it was decided to go more strongly with the documentary strand and minimise the drama strand totally. So we couldn't use any of those drama stills. However, fortunately we did get stills of the Taika and Stan interview and a few others. And also don't forget to get a great shot of your director near the camera. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's important. And the director with your key interviewees, although, as Rachel said about the Betty White example, don't put your director in every shot. Another lesson that I learned was that it may seem to be a good option for a crew person to shoot some stills as supplementary to the official photographer. But what if your crew person leaves the production unhappy? This is where rights contracts are important. It's normal for a professional stills photographer to do a total buyout, meaning the rights are yours. But think carefully about what your crew contract says, and do you have the power to enforce it anyway? It might just end up costing a lot of money. Also, if it's that kind of film, and a lot of documentaries are, you need to budget for archival or images from other media, and for a person to research those. Quite often when you're researching the actual documentary, you'll come across all those materials, and if you're licensing them to use in the documentary, also license them to use in your publicity, because sometimes that can become an issue as well. Same with music, actually. There was another film I worked on where the music was licensed to be used in the film, and they also used it in the trailer, which created an issue with the creator of the music and cost unexpected money. Rachel talked about stills for the poster and the thumbnail. The poster is where photography and graphic design meet. These days, it has to look good, not only from a distance, well, if you're thinking of billboards, as well as small thumbnails and on phones. Check out, I've put some posters here. Okay, Moon Age Daydream, I think is a current documentary poster that is stunning and alluring, which does reflect the flavour of the film. Whetū Marama.
So here's the one that I was speaking about earlier, where we had the image of the boat and it was really busy for a hero image, but as a poster, it's absolutely stunning. It's just such a beautiful poster.
They've treated it in such a way that the problems that you were seeing are no longer there.
Yeah.
And that's what a good graphic designer can do for you. I first saw that as a big AO poster and I thought, wow, yeah, that's cool. However, Does it work as a thumbnail? Okay, the other one we've got here, James and Icy, shows warmth, aroha, eccentricity. I just love that one. However, a poster doesn't have to be based on stills. It can just be stunning graphic art like Mr. Organ. This is my new favourite. It's simple, intriguing, and relates to the subject really well. Mr. Organ, which you might want to look up the synopsis of that too, because it's a good one. And the title.
I love that image. It's fantastic. I haven't seen that poster till now.
There you go. Well, it's pretty fresh.
Yes, very
new.
Very.
Yeah. And the title of this film, I think it's so fortunate for David Farrier that the subject surname is Organ. But if you don't know that, it's a totally intriguing title anyway. What the heck? Yeah. Okay. Tagline, ranging from a few words to a sentence. The aim is to intrigue, to startle, to pique curiosity, and to pair it well with the title. And here's a couple of examples. I just saw that one that you showed before, Rachel, about the other fellow. What if you shared a name with the most famous man in the world? And that says it, basically. That's really cool. Mothers of the Revolution, ordinary women who changed the world. Milked, white lies in Dairyland. Mr. Organ, an incredible true story of psychological warfare. So in my mind, all of those work really well. Rachel's talked really well about materials for social media, so I won't go over those again. I will talk about thinking also not just about social media, but about magazines, newspapers, what we call conventional media that your audience may well use, because you're not all just making films for the TikTok generation. So think about what those media require. Prepare materials, shoot some exclusive stills for magazines, and so that you can hold them back and only use them in a particular magazine. Think about possible subjects and angles for feature articles. Think about who involved with your film is a great interview subject who will then go on to be interviewed again about what it was like to be in the film and why they were in the film. Not so much about what they talk about in the film. If you can strike that balance, that's lucky. Well, fortunate. Maybe, depending on the subject of your film and your entrepreneurial skills, it might be possible to secure some sponsorship to cover your publicity and marketing. Ideally, cash. But some in-kind options might be helpful, as long as they don't exclude you from placing stories with rival media if it's a media company that you go with. Are there corporates who care about your issue or the content of your film? Are there philanthropists, big charities, government departments, or NGO organisations? Can you see ways to align with them that can be win-win and can add to your budget? I'm not sure how you get them to make those contributions without becoming investors, but that's up to you. I will now come back to Rachel.
Thank you so much. Wow. Okay, so we've talked at you for around 45 minutes now, and the PowerPoint presentation Belle will send to you all as well. So you've got that there. You'll be able to go into the links and look at more in detail these websites that Sue has kindly put in there as well. But now it's time for us to take some questions from you to be able to answer some of those pressing points that you're wanting to discuss. But I suppose in summary, really, we're just trying to hone in the importance of really thinking about your publicity really early on, as Sue's mentioned, right from what is the name of the film. Sometimes that's really important to just be able to capture that audience, making sure you've got the right title, being able to have your stills photographer on set, thinking about what the film is about. We are not miracle workers as publicists. If you call us 24 hours before you need something, we're not going to be able to pull it out of the hat. We try, but it's not always easy. So really just getting, being engaged with a publicist right along is going to just make your journey so much easier, and a better way for people to be able to sell your film, because that's what you want to do. You want to get as many people seeing this fantastic documentary that you have made, and really being able to get us as a festival or distributors to be able to really engage with some outreach audiences there. So hopefully we've got some questions that we haven't given you all the information and it's all done there. So we'll give you a few moments to pop some questions in the chat, and then we can do some answers there. I suppose while we're waiting for that, so if you want to so maybe talk about, you've had such a fantastic career, and congratulations on retiring now. What are some of the really special moments that you can remember being on set as a publicist?
Not so sure about on set. Oh gosh, this is okay. Something that comes to mind, and we haven't talked about, is publicity stunts. When I was on contract for 20th Century Fox New Zealand, this is a long time ago now, we were publicising the Simpsons movie, and we were brainstorming how to draw attention to the launch of the movie in the cinemas. And I had the brainwave, why don't we do some kind of takeover in a small town and use that to generate publicity? And so we built the original, in Springfield in the South Island, I don't know whether you know, but there is still a pink donut as the town symbol.
I did not know that. I did not even know that there is a Springfield.
That was my doing. I went down there and got all the permits and everything.
Yeah.
Originally we put a polystyrene one up, but the locals liked it. Then they turned it into an enormous, it broke of course. And then they put a big tractor tyre and painted it pink, but that was sort of ugly. And now they've got a concrete one and it's absolutely permanent. So we had, on the day we unveiled it, we had it covered up in black, and then we unveiled it and we had about 3,000 people came to the town festival, and we had all sorts of media, and it was just really exciting. The other one I'm talking about on a stunt is Learn Poie. We had a day where we brought the Pātea Māori Club to West Auckland, and we invited people to come along and learn the song, and we had thousands of people through that as well. And that was our media launch day, so we had the media there too.
Yeah, and having those like special moments really just allows for the media to come in and get those special moments.
We also coincided it with Māori Language Week, and Matariki coincided that year. So we were able to pitch that to the media as, here's something visual for your Māori Language Week, Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori coverage.
And I think that's it. We've got a question that is about the changing landscape, and it's something as well to be thinking about, particularly coming out of COVID after the last couple of years as well. The media landscape has changed. The opportunities to have a lot of reviewers. I know, reviewers have sort of, platforms have gone, looking at various different places that you can have. Letterboxd is a website now that is international. It's New Zealand started, but internationally is a really great place to be able to get people to review your films. So the question we have is, what have you noticed that works better now than it has before? So changing the landscape of publicity, how social media and attention spans have changed over time. Well, this is what we were talking about before, and I am yet to learn the value of TikTok. But I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are willing to teach me.
Well, you don't really need to know how to do that unless you are genuinely of that generation and communicating as part of that, and unless your content, your story, your film is works for that generation, I would say keep away from it, Rachel.
Good, thank you.
But what works better now than it has before is obviously all forms of social media, in the sense that you as content creators can be in direct contact with your audience. And once you know who your audience are, you know where they go to, and you talk to them in that sense, and you can talk directly. Can I talk a little bit about your own personal social media?
Well, yeah. And also hashtags, I think, is something that I find really useful. If you've actually got hashtags that you can, that really relate to your film or your subject areas, those using those in socials actually helps with Google Analytics picking up the film as well and really creating a following. And hashtags are so simple and so quick and easy to use. And, you know, often we can use those in place of taglines even in our socials.
Or mix them together.
Mix them together, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and making sure that your personal socials are working.
Yes, as content creators, because it needs to be authentic. Your communication needs to be authentic on social media. It's kind of okay for a publicist to run a Facebook page for the film, but you've got to run your own one if you are active on Facebook. Especially Twitter is really important in New Zealand in particular, because that's where the media hang out, and you can make direct contact with media on Twitter, and it's better if you do that than your publicist speaking for you does that. And so in order to be noticed, obviously you need to have credible and authentic tweets yourself.
And this also comes back to the website, for example, that Sue showed earlier, Gayleen Preston's website. When you're actually then searching about the director or the producer, the filmmaker, actually having some information there that the audience can find out some really interesting facts about. And they'll do the same with your social media as well. They'll want to go and have a look at what you've been doing, what other films you've done, those types of things, and they might find out where you've been holidaying, all sorts of different things. So be really careful about your socials with that as well. Another question that we've just had, could some material filmed but not used in the film be used for publicity, i.e. content for the internet site, for example? So, you know, some of that's been cut out of the film, but it could still be used for publicity.
Oh, absolutely, especially if it's something that relates totally nicely to the theme of the film. If it's something that reveals a bit more about your subject who's in your film, if it's a blooper and everybody's happy with it going out as a blooper, then, you know, that's fine as well. Definitely. And that's the thing I'm saying about your trailer. Your trailer can actually include scenes that are not in the final film as well, or that they're in the wrong order.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. And that's well. Hang on. I'm talking too much. It leads me on to spoilers. How worried should you be about spoilers? It's probably not that important in documentary as it is in drama, although a spoiler is only a spoiler once somebody's seen the film.
And then they go, that makes sense now.
Yeah. It doesn't matter beforehand because it'll be out of context. So that doesn't matter.
I love the idea of the bloopers, though. I love watching bloopers, and especially in documentary, it just shows the realness of the people. You know, just lines said, you know, wrong, or context, and those types of things. Just showing that realness of what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I think that's great to have those as well.
Yeah, and that's also an opportunity, perhaps, for your interviewer to become more involved. As well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's something that we'll be talking more in our next clinic, which is around that interview technique. But yes, it's whether you're seen on screen as an interview or not, and how that comes through. We've just been asked a question here as well to elaborate on the concept of, if you don't have enough money to hire a publicist, then you don't have enough money to make a film.
No, then do you have enough money? It's a question.
You have? Yes.
It's a question. I think it's worth thinking about, and it's not necessarily to hire a publicist, but what I meant was to create publicity materials, and you know that does involve hiring people to make those.
I think it's the you know, as a filmmaker, you're so passionate about getting your work created in this fantastic film there, but we've got to remember we actually need things to then get the audience to see it, to want to see it. And that's where earlier, I know we've had films in the festival that we've never received a trailer for, and that's really difficult for audiences to be able to decide what they want to watch without having a little snippet of the film and going, is this something that I'm going to be intrigued in? So, you know, it's just having that little pocket of money is really important to be able to get your film out to as many possible people as you can.
It may help to think about publicity materials as part of the film or the program that you're making. It's content. Think of it as content and therefore budget for it that way.
Question that's come up. Now, this is something I'm finding really interesting. That says, what are your thoughts around creating original music versus buying rights for existing music? Does it help to publicity to own original music for the film? Now, something that I've been noticing over the last couple of years is the documentary film composition becoming so important, and albums. There are actually albums being released of composers' music for documentaries. You see it in scripted and drama, but we're starting to now see it quite often in documentary. And yes, if there is an album around that's going to be sold as well, that's huge for publicity. A single being released at the same time that the film is, the composers are so important, creating the music, but themselves, they have publicity also around that. So if you've got someone you can work with to create that original music, I just think it's such a beautiful opportunity. It's there.
That's right, and it does give you another interesting person to put up for interviews. It gives you a whole other angle. Yeah. There's a film that we had, New Zealand film, Balance of the Five Elements, that is going to be going around cinematic release soon as well. And New Zealander Joel Haynes was he's a wonderful musician, did beautiful compositions for that. And it's definitely music that I just enjoy listening to after the film. So, you can just put that music on and it gives you memories around the documentary as well. Do you recommend holding off screening your film anywhere before applying for festivals or reaching out to media? I've got a film screening for 80 to 90 people. Wonder if that rules me out of heaps of festival or publicity opportunities. Okay. From a festival point of view, if it's a New Zealand film, it's important for us to be having that world premiere, particularly in New Zealand. If it's been screened elsewhere before, we really lose the opportunity to get media publicity for your film. And also, it's about the audience engaging we want to do that big screen release and then going into our hybrid festival. I think it's really important if your film is for festival circuit, that you look at that festival circuit first. I just spoke about Balance of the Five Elements. That had its world premiere with us. It's done some of the festival circuits around, and then it's still able to then go on to cinematic release. Many of the films that Sue's spoken about today as well have had they've done the festival circuit for about 12 months, and then they've gone on to be able to have that additional screenings as well. If you're doing a private screening for your film with the crew, and the cast to be able to do that, that's okay. But if it's a public screening, that's a difference. It's really important, I think, that if you're making that decision with your distributors, with your crew, that you want to go down the festival circuit, really invest in that first. Anything you want to add with that? Yes, when you say public screening, you mean a paid for screening, right? You're not selling tickets. So if you have a cast and crew screening and a participant screening, then that's fine. And that also helps you get your early influencers and advocates. So that is a good idea. Just a correction, Rachel, the films that I spoke about that I worked on, we managed to negotiate quite a small window between the New Zealand International Film Festival and the cinema release on most of them.
Great.
So that the publicity could roll from one into the other. And that's another thing to think about, actually, is closing that gap, because you don't want to have to run two publicity campaigns, and in fact it's really hard to do that. Okay, so thinking about advocates and influencers, can I talk about that for a minute?
Yes, please.
My best example of the power of getting the right people on side are my year with Helen. Helen Clark became the best advocate for this film. In many ways, because she has a huge social media following, she was invaluable. She took ownership of the film, really, which was lovely, actually. She had numerous invitations to speak at all sorts of places internationally, embassies, museums, universities, film festivals, and she would tell them, I won't do a speech as such, play the film, and then I'll do a Q&A. So the film got played in places it would never otherwise have reached, and she didn't have to prepare a whole lot of different speeches. Dame Gayleen Preston was able to make the film available for this because there was no international distributor. And we would argue that more influential people around the world saw the film than would have in a more conventional release. The other great example I've got is from a drama that I worked on, Mount Zion, which was Stan Walker's first film as an actor, and it was in the early days of his music career. His mother, April Walker, was a powerhouse of influence. She did things like she bought the whole cinema for the opening night in Tauranga, and then gave all the tickets to her friends in whānau down there, got Stan there, told the local newspaper about it as well. So that was good for us. For the Australian release, she mobilised a network of Māori women to buy and sell tickets in each city. And she organised a premiere on the Gold Coast with the stars, plenty of music and lots of hype. She was so effective that Sony Australia offered her a job as a publicist. And also Troy Kingi's mother. This was his first film, and it was before he was discovered as a musician. She organised a premiere in Kirikiri, which I was able to help her with by persuading Sony to let them have the film pre-release. So you can look out for the people that have got a vested interest.
Sounds like mothers are great influences.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've got a vested interest, a passion, and the skills, and you empower them to advocate for your film. Give them materials, maybe some exclusive insight or tickets to give away, that kind of thing.
Right. Look, it sounds like we don't have any more questions there. So, we might have one more. Bella's telling me, so she's just going to have a look there. But I do hope that you have found this really insightful, and please do feel free to reach out to me. I'm Rachael, Rachael, at docedge.nz. If you've got any questions, particularly around film submissions time. As I've mentioned, we are open for submissions still till the 15th of December is our next deadline. Anything else there, Belle? No more questions? Yes, we do. I knew she had one there for us. So what are your thoughts on alternative distribution models, especially if centred around social change issue? i.e. that sugar film had many screenings in small communities with diabetes before a cinema release.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally
Community
depends
outreach.
on your film, what the issue is, what you're trying to achieve in making the film. Yeah.
I think this really moves into that, your impact statements, which we could go on for a long time about, but this is what making a documentary is all about. You're wanting people to talk about your issues, you want to have communications, you're wanting to reach out to the communities that really need to hear the stories, and absolutely it's really important getting into those small communities that this film is so important for, particularly around the sugar film. They then become your advocates, they become your influencers, they are going to promote and tell people the reasons why they're the voice for your film. And continue those conversations around the story that you've given another life, give it more of a journey as well. So those, that's something particularly around festival, we really do focus a lot on trying to get into those outreach communities. And if you've got, are able to give us examples of communities that have really, that you think are going to have impact by that film, we will reach out to those communities and really make sure that they are going to be able to engage and see the film as well. Again, we have recorded this as well, so it will be available on docedge.nz to be able to view at a later time, but to be able to also get any of your colleagues that may have missed the opportunity today. But we're going to finish up, and we're going to finish up with a closing blessing and karakia from Sue. Thank you.
Ka inoi tātou. Whakawātia tātou I tēnei huinga. Whakawātia te rangi e tui honei. Whakawātia hoki te papa e tā koto nei. Whakawātia o mātou nākau. O mātou hiningaro me o mātou wairua. Koia rā e rongo, ka whakaere ake ki runga. Tāwhia whakamaua anō ki a tina, haumie, huie, tai.
Kia ora, and thank you. And again, I'd just like to finish up by thanking New Zealand On Air, New Zealand Film Commission, and our other partners and supporters, including Screen Rights and Getty Images. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to bring these clinics to you. Ka kite and have a good weekend, Sue.